To everyone and welcome to the ODPP Café. The show is brought to you live from the ODPP headquarters. We are live on Facebook at ODPP, at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. We are also on Twitter at ODPP_KE and on YouTube at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. As always, I welcome you to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. This show is always on Friday, and it is meant to empower you. It is always about the criminal justice system. We discuss about things that affect you and I on our daily lives, on our day-to-day lives, and we learn how to navigate these things. So welcome and feel empowered. Feel free to comment on the comment section, ask questions. There are experts who are on the show and are waiting to respond to you. Let us know where you are. Let us know what you think about our topic. And of course, you can suggest what topic you'd want us to discuss next time. Before we get into the discussion, and as always, we look at a sneak into the courts. We look at the courts this week. And the disclaimer normally is that this is not very exhaustive, just a few of the cases in court. But you can feel free to look at, to follow through on our pages and see what more has been happening in the courts. We have discussed children before, and it is one of those topics that we can't purely exhaust. We thought we should come and discuss some of the issues that face the girl child. And I have experts, as always, on the show, and I'd like to invite them to introduce themselves so that you get on with the topic. Karibu sana and welcome to the show. I'll start with the lady.
Yes.
Yes, Karibu sana, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
My name is Mercy Nyaroita. I'm a prosecution counsel with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. Also a member of the anti-FGM unit, which mainly focuses on how to fight female genital mutilation through prosecution or other means. Also, I'm in the children division, where we try and find innovative ways on getting child justice friendly systems in place. Yes.
Karibu sana to the show and thank you for coming.
Thank you too for the invite.
So he for she. It's for the girl child, but it's good that you're representing the he's. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nita. So my name's Ismail Omar, and currently I'm the head of policy and advocacy, working at the Center of Excellence on Ending FGMC and Child Marriage and GBV at AMREF Health Africa. And of course, our work is mainly to ensure that we protect children, and this is girls and boys, from harmful practices, like FGM, that is female genital mutilation and cutting, child marriage, and of course other forms of gender-based violence, and of course all forms of violence against children. Yeah, so really excited to be here today and looking forward for a very, nice conversation.
Karibu sana. A disclaimer we must start with. In as much as we're discussing the girl child today, it's not like we're leaving out the boy child, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Let people not come at us to us and really accuse us. So the what is it called? The theme of this year's International Day of the Girl Child was the digital generation, something like that.
Yes, my generation, the digital generation.
Yes. So I like we're discussing earlier, it is quite a good topic. It's topical for the world because, of course, connectivity, globalization, and then the pandemic happened and we all had to go digital. But is it really true that we all went digital, say, for our local context? Smile.
Okay, so this year's International Day of the Girls theme was Digital Generation, Our Generation, and it was speaking towards addressing the digital divide. Here I'm talking about access to digital opportunities that can lead to digital transformation for girls and women, and also looking especially at vulnerable girls and women who probably are missing out on the benefits of accessing digital tools, education. Talking about education, I'm talking about STEM courses. So we find that many of our girls, and especially here in Africa, are not accessing STEM courses, science, technology, engineering, mathematical courses, as compared to the male counterparts. So there's that gap. And so this year's theme was actually was looking towards addressing that divide by ensuring that that we continue mentoring girls towards getting excited about STEM courses, by also ensuring that we really, the governments really keenly look at how our girls and women leverage on there can be low-cost technological opportunities that can really help them in transforming their lives, and even in some cases helping them in achieving their livelihood. So that was the main agenda. But again, looking at the discourse, I think for the African child, there are other important needs for the African child, and especially for the girl child. There are barriers that continue to hinder the girl child, especially from achieving her dreams. So issues like harmful practices, that is female genital mutilation, or child marriage, or child labor, or gender-based violence. These are still issues happening in our communities today, and are actually hindering the girl child from
achieving their
full potential. So similarly, the way we as much as we are saying that we need to reach out to both boys and girls, because every one of them deserves a chance to achieve their dreams, but we also need to acknowledge that the girl child requires a bit of attention, so that at least we can be able to remove the obstacles that are making her not to realize her potential.
Okay. So Mercy, you were telling us about the extent to which, in staying with the theme, the extent to which the digital devices are actually one of those things you find common in child cases, in abuse cases.
Yes, in the criminal justice system, we mostly my work involves prosecution of these cases, especially on defilement cases or gender-based violence cases. So one of the things that you note as we go, yes, my generation, the digital generation, we also have to look at the other perspective of how this is also impacting the girls when it comes to their well-being. Because you'll find that in cases, the girls are not able to maybe afford these phones so that they can access the digital system. So what do? They go ahead and are lured by men who are able to buy them these phones. And you'll find that in the defilement cases that we have, that is one of the things, that she was given a phone, and so she becomes a victim of the sexual advances towards which are directed towards her. Also, you'll find that because of early marriage, she's not able to afford this phone, so she'll have to depend on the one who's married her to either give her these phones. Then you also find that most of the cases are pornography. She's not in control of these digital items that are used to take her pictures, so they end up on the social media, and she is not able to control them. So that is one of the things. Another thing is that when we look at the other side of the digital generation, or this perspective of the criminal elements that come about because of the digital, the negative aspects, you find that men who are old or even above 18, let's say those are men, they tend to send texts to lure the girl, which are not good texts. So you'll find a parent complaining, what do I do? How do I go about this? My child is being victimized, or there's a potential person out there who is sending messages to my child which are not good messages. So how do we go about this? So that is the other aspect.
Quite interesting. There's always the debate about at what age should you give your child a phone.
That is it, yes. And you know, we have to look at, like from the Kenyan perspective, we have the modern side, modern families who are living in the urban areas. Then we have the people who are living in the rural areas. The ones in the modern or urban cities will have access to phones. You'll find even children in primary schools have the phones because their parents are not, maybe they're working, so they have to access their parents, which is there's no age, at which age do you give your child the phone? That's now dependent on the parent. But now in the rural sectors, you'll find that girls even in high school do not have a phone. The first time they'll get a phone maybe is when they go to the university, and that is the time they'll have to buy themselves a phone if they can afford to.
Or someone buys for them.
Or someone buys for them. And if you look at those now the perspectives of inequality between the boys and the girls, you will find that most of the time, and it's not a discrimination towards the boys, most of the time the boys will have access to, will manage to access a phone or a laptop or a digital devices way before the girl child.
Yes, and I like that you brought it home. Like there are our realities. Of course, there's the global theme and all that, but these are our realities. And when we were posting, like I said earlier, we talked about child labor, we talked about FGM, we talked about SGBV, right? But before we get into that, Ismail, maybe there's that thin line between gender, or is it a misconception, between gender equality and gender parity? I mean, what are we looking for here?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about gender equality, we are talking about how do we ensure that both men and women, but both boys and girls, have, you know, fair and equal opportunities. So that is what especially equality. I myself as a feminist, I'm in this space because I want to ensure that nobody is left behind. So when we see feminists, for instance, advancing the issues of the girl child, it doesn't mean necessarily that the boy child is left behind. It's just because the girl child has unique needs as compared to the boy, and so probably they will require, you know, more attention so that they don't remain behind. So for this conversation, I think our aim is just to promote the tenets of gender equality, and also any society. I think the highest or the most ideal level the most ideal level will be getting at the level of gender transformation. I think that is the most ideal level. But I can tell you, until this day, there is no country that can say that you can say that they have reached 100% transformation, because that is a process and it takes time. We need to address so many issues. We need to address
we have the ILO, 2 conventions, one on minimum wage and the other one on worst forms of labor. And here in Kenya, we have the Employment Act. Now, the ILO in the minimum wage, which Kenya has ratified, is that below 15 years old, a child below 15 years old should not be working. And if they are working, maybe just light work.
What is light work?
Light work is like household chores, move this table. You know, if you go to say, no, a child should not work, That means if a child says, I'm not supposed to work because it's wrong, it's against the laws, but you see there's this light work which is just household
Life
chores.
skills.
Yeah, they say we are imparting life skills on the child. Or just light work is just, as I've said, just household chores to do this, milking cows. But the minute it turns into exploitation, whereby this child does not even go to school, this child does not even is not able to play because you are supposed to work from 8 to 5. Then it transforms from now a child working into child labor, or this child now is exploited by being trafficked from one place to another for the purposes of going to work, and her wages are sent to her parents or her caregiver. Then that is child labor. You will find that in urban settings, most of the domestic workers girls or who are below 18 years old. Any person below 18 years old is a child. But when she is taken from her home to another place to work, then that is child labor because she's not able to go to school, and that means her well-being is at risk. The same thing with the boys. When she's taken from his home and is taken somewhere else, like in marginalized places, to herd goats, to herd camels, we have those things. That is child labor. So because he's not being paid, or if he's being paid, his wages are going to his family.
Yeah.
So that is child labor.
It was very interesting. Yesterday, there was a case, I think, from Busia or something, Bungoma. A man was sentenced to 30 years in prison for child labor and trafficking. So you brought it clear because I wasn't understanding why it was so harsh a sentence. So clearly this was labor because this child was not going to school. And then this child had been moved from, I think, Bungoma to Busia for the purposes of work. So that's trafficking.
Trafficking, yes, that is trafficking. Trafficking does not necessarily mean moving a person out of Kenya to maybe Uganda or another country. It can be moving you from Nakuru to Nairobi, from Eldoret and one town to another town, a county to another county. That is trafficking.
But aren't we, most households in Nairobi, then guilty of this?
Yes, most of us are guilty of this because we are hiring children, and you know, you're not even, in fact, our Employment Act says that you're not supposed to hire any person, of course, 8 years is but you'll still find some people using those girls that to take care of their children, 8 years old, no. Then 13 and 15, 18, between 15 and 18, you can, the minimum age is 15 years old. So 15 and above, you can hire them, but it is it should not hinder their access to education. It should not hinder their access to well-being. And you will find that even the below 18 years old, a child between 16 and 18 should not perform hazardous work. Hazardous work is this work that entails maybe using chemicals, work that and then, or maybe going underground to dig holes, to dig boreholes, or just work that is dangerous. Yes, that is now the classification of hazardous work. It's in the ILO, and our Employment Act has also done it. And also we have the Industrialization Act, whereby a child can actively participate in work as long as it's for mentorship or it's for their let's say being, what is it called, kufundishwa kujua kitu ama attachment, industrial attachment.
So that is legal, that is allowed.
That is allowed. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Maybe I just add on, just bringing the visual so that we can understand the magnitude of child labor in Kenya. So around 8% of children in Kenya undergo child labor. That's around 1.3 million children.
Where? In this country?
In this country. And so to speak, the reason why child labor happens is because of, one, it's poverty.
Yes.
Two is because the family is facing financial challenges. And we've recently had a spike in the number of cases of child labor because of COVID-19. I find that most families have lost their sources of livelihood, and so their children take on that role. And so between, I think, 2000 and I think 2010, we had a very, the trajectory was going down in terms of child labor, but now again it has started going up because of the COVID-19.
What's happening then? Parents are not working, so they send their children out to work?
Yeah, so by when family, so let me first of all finish the reasons why child labor takes place. So the other reason is if one of the caregivers gets sick, for instance, or if one of the primary caregivers, that is the parent or the guardian, loses their income. That causes the reason why one of the children in that household will again seek for to work. And so I think it's very, very challenging in terms of trying to balance, because and this is looking at our African context. You find that most children are left with no option but to work, and so when they work, as my colleague said, they miss out on very important things like education and also their healthcare, and of course their rights. They have rights to, as children, they have rights to to be in school, to get the nurturing they require from their parents, so that they can be responsible adults in the future. And also child labor provides an avenue for exploitation, and especially sexual exploitation. And you can see this in our number of households. So if, for instance, even if we are even though those ones who are between maybe 15 and even 18, honestly, in our current education system, these children need to be probably in secondary school.
Yeah, high school. That is the age.
So in short, what we want to say is that all children need not to engage in child labor. Of course, what my colleague said, light labor is permissible in terms of even it aligns with our own African culture, that they need to grow up being responsible citizens who can be able to manage themselves when they grow up and their families.
To add on the reasons as to why child labor is also getting out of hand in the criminal justice system, as we are prosecuting these people, the individuals, you will find that you are prosecuting a person who was the primary caregiver of a child. So the minute this person was arrested, their child was left alone in the house. So you'll find that I've had cases or instances. I can remember one when I was in court. The father said while we were proceeding with this case, I have a child who is at home. I don't even know who is taking care of him since I was arrested, and I'm not able to afford bail or bond. I don't know who is taking care of that child. So now we turn back, and we have to now involve the children officer to go and find out, where is this child? Who is in whose custody is this child in? So you find the child was left alone. Neighbors are the ones who are taking care of this child. So, and if the child is old enough or has other siblings, then what happens? They have to find some work to be able to feed these families.
You must then discuss public interest. How does it apply here?
Now, public interest, you see, you cannot refuse to charge a person when there is a victim. If a criminal case has been filed and there is evidence, you have to charge this particular individual, who is an adult. Of course, we'll talk about children in conflict later. But once you charge this person, what the Children Division is encouraging, and that will soon come out in the policy guidelines which we are coming out with for children in conflict with the law, is that one of the things we as prosecutors, we are being told to be innovative and find out if this accused person has a child, then we involve the children officers to go and find out the status of these children. You'll find that even very cases like minor cases like Changa, you've arrested the mother is in prison, then the chiefs tomorrow come to your office and say, this person and has left several children at home, who will take care of them? So now again, it becomes another problem, because you ask them, but when you brought this person, why didn't you even notify us or even notify the children officer that this and this has happened? So luckily, if a conviction has not been, a sentence has not been meted out, then the court will consider probation, that this person serves a probation sentence instead of a custodial sentence, if it is a misdemeanor or something that can be given a probation sentence. So that is one of the things. Or in the alternative, even the court can give a bond to this parent, free bond for her to go and take care of her children as she comes for the continuance of her case or his case.
What a quagmire.
Yes.
So what are the penalties for child labor?
I can't say for sure the penalty
The
for
maximum.
child labor, but I know for trafficking, like the one that you've said,
Yes.
the maximum is 30 years. So
So
was
that's what
quite
that guy got.
Yes, that is under the law. If you traffic a child, that is 30 years.
Yeah.
Yes, that was okay.
Okay, so what are some of the interventions that you do at AMREF to just mitigate against child labor?
Yeah, so I think at AMREF we look at children issues as a whole in terms of we address several issues, of course, but majorly, of course, our focus has been, of course, primarily on especially harmful practices.
Yes.
and of course addressing gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And so some of our programs we work in close collaboration with government, with government, and especially the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. And maybe let me just congratulate the ODPP for really putting, I think it's one of the, I think very few institutions that are very child-centered in a way that they even have been able to set units to deal directly with issues affecting children, like the Children Division, the anti-FGM unit. I think that is very, very commendable. And so working with partners like ODPP, of course, the Department of Children, which has now, I think now has been moved from the Ministry of Labor to the Ministry of Public Service and Gender.
Makes more sense, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it makes
it
more
does,
sense.
it does.
So for a long time, for us who in the NGO world, we've always felt that the issues of children have been misplaced, and because the department has always been moved from one ministry to another. So while we also believe that issues of children need to cut across all ministries, because every single ministry, if you talk about the Ministry of Agriculture, there's the issue of food and nutrition. If it is education, children are involved.
That's interesting.
In the Ministry of Devolution, how many resources? Looking at the resources, to what extent are the resources that are being sent to counties also addressing children issues at the county level? So every single the issues of children need to be
cut across.
Needs to cut across all other ministry. So at AMREF we are very committed to. We believe that it takes us all to end violence against children, and so we are calling upon all communities who are involved, because we also believe that communities are at the forefront of effecting change.
Yes.
And that's why even our vision itself, we're talking about lasting health, and that means we put our communities in the forefront. If communities today, we work in close collaboration with the community, if they decide to stop FGM, for instance, which is a social norm, if they decide to stop child marriage, you see, so communities to us they're number one, and we
they're
work
the first line of defense for you.
Exactly.
But let me ask you, because life has really changed. We are no longer, we used to say that the child is the property of the community. We are all responsible for children. But things have changed. Siku hizi ukishika mtoto wa mtu utapatikana. How is it working? Are communities really helping you in your activities? Like for AMREF, for example.
Yeah, one of our values at AMREF is Ubuntu. That is number one value. And Ubuntu, it's about we are because you are, and you are because we are. I think that in itself, it's one of our very critical value as Africans, that your existence is based on mine and vice versa. So for us, working with communities is an avenue for bringing about sustainable change in the communities. And I know maybe in urban areas, maybe I'm sure most of you don't know your neighbors because of
concrete jungle.
Because of the concrete jungle, also because of how we've currently been socialized and cultured, and how the media has influenced our way of lives, and also probably looking at also the family units has been sort of disintegrated in a way.
It is under pressure.
It's under pressure, and also other issues that I want to mention, including probably generation trauma that we have inherited from probably our parents. There's so many things that are involved in how our units today have been disintegrated. I can tell you, majority of Kenyans come from dysfunctional families. By dysfunction, I mean either you come from a family where you are able to experience violence in some way. It could have been physical or emotional abuse. And so these issues tend to spiral back, even to your own family. And so I think at AMREF we strongly believe in families and communities, and the issues that we address, we cannot achieve any results without working closely with communities.
I just on a light note, have you seen this post where people say firstborns need to form a support group because they have been made to work for their siblings and their parents, like firstborn children? They need help, just on a light note. So let's just speak a bit about FGM. That was more or less about child labor. And like Ismail says, it's when you look at children, it's holistic. So our issues, some of them are FGM. The ODPP has an anti-FGM unit, and you said you're part of it. What informed a whole unit to be formed for because of FGM?
Okay, what informed the unit to be formed was because we had to be part and parcel of the fight towards ending or eradicating female genital mutilation in Kenya. So you'll find that if you send if we have no community-based organizations or NGOs or other criminal justice sectors, knowing that there's an individual who I can directly have an access to, so that if it is maybe, let's say, going to the communities to talk to them, you'll just go and talk to them and tell like sensitization of the communities. If it is prosecution, you'll be able to follow these cases from the start to the end, so that we don't end up losing them. That is what formed the basis of an anti-FGM unit, having one-on-one interaction with the people on the ground. If it is a prosecutor in Elgeyo Marakwet, if it is a prosecutor in Kericho, and all of them are doing commendable work, because you'll find different convictions and different cases which are going to conclusion because of this. And even you'll find, like, if there's a CBO or an NGO which is in Kajiado, let's say they're in Loitoktok, they'll find a prosecutor who they can call and interact, and who will be able to educate and sensitize the public on the laws on FGM, because not everyone knows the laws. At the same time, we'll be able to train the law enforcement officers on what is required when investigating a case on FGM or early marriage.
What do you look at for evidence, for example, in an FGM case?
Now, in an FGM case, one of the things is that first, letters, and that is one of the main things, that it has to be reported. You see, for ODPP, we do not do investigations. A complaint must be there. Then once a complaint is lodged, then someone must come and record the statements. We'll go talk about the challenges later. Recording of statements. So I will have to look at who is the person who, first, is there a victim? There must be someone who's been cut. Second, who cut this person? If there's no person who cut this person, are there witnesses? Who arrested this person? What was used to cut this person? Where was this person cut? Because when I look through that, there are different perpetrators for each offense. For example, if we say who, that is the person who cut. If we say where, who, that is the abode, the location, who provided for the house. So if we say who facilitated, that is aiding and abetting. Who are participating maybe in the celebration, they failed to report. So if the FGM law is very good, because it gives different offenses for different individuals, so that we just don't focus on charging the person who actually performed the female genital mutilation.
But when you deal with children, who should report?
Now, anyone can report. If I know that, I know of cases whereby even a neighbor just saw that there's female genital mutilation going to be performed in that house, and they actually went and informed the chief, and the chief goes ahead and they actually conduct a raid in that home. Now, unfortunately, we do not have an offense of attempting to perform female genital mutilation. It has to have been performed. Yeah, that is the sad part. So, but most of the cases you find that already the act has been performed. So what I usually say is that prosecution should be the last resort. What we need to actually fight for is the ability to be able to sensitize the public, so that they may leave these cultures behind and these traditions behind. And even the girls themselves run away from these homes. I know of a case whereby and it was so sad, that girl tried to run away twice. That now this is early marriage. Twice? Yes. And you know, first of all, FGM comes and then early marriage follows.
Yes.
because once a girl has been cut in some communities, and that's why you have to differentiate the reasoning behind female genital mutilation. In some communities, it's a rite of passage from girl to a womanhood. So you have to to find ways of how to transition these girls from childhood to womanhood, and that is why you have alternative rites of passage that do not involve cutting. In some communities, they are just doing it. I don't know why, like in Kisii. They just do female genital. It has never been understood. In some communities, it's connected to religion. So you find in those communities where it's a rite of passage from child to womanhood, once she becomes a woman, then even her own mother cannot tell her anything. Because she's a woman. There are two women in that house, and once she becomes a woman, then go and get married. So that is what happens. Even in court, you'll find that this girl will not even talk to you, and you remember some are hostile because they are wondering why you even interfering with their lives. So she'll be like, if you try to talk to her, she'll think like, why should I talk to this one? And she's not a woman. I've not been cut like her, so she feels like she's a woman, I'm a child. Yeah, so that's what happens in the society.
Yeah, yeah. Ismail, because you do this a lot, the anti-FGM. How prevalent is FGM in this country? Shock us.
So globally we have 200 million girls and women who have undergone FGM.
200 million
globally, yeah. So in Kenya, the prevalence is about 21%. And so, as you mentioned earlier on, in the counties, we have 22 hotspot counties where FGM takes place.
I keep wondering who are these 22?
Yeah.
Because in my little knowledge, it's just these ones that I know. Kisii, Masai.
Yeah.
Who are these 22?
So in the 22 hotspot counties, already we have the Masai, Samurus, the Meru, the Somalis. We have even the Kikuyu. It's re-emerging.
Yes.
It's a culture.
It
had ended, but now it's coming up again because of.
And it's amongst the elite, right? The learned. Why?
Yeah. So for instance, in Kikuyu, I think the reason why it's re-emerging, it's because of this some council of elders that are emerging, and of course, this is being driven by many issues, including wanting to. I think it's first of all, one of the reasons political reasons, and others is the issue of they want to claim their heritage. So there's this case about for instance there's so many nowadays lifestyle diseases like cancer, all these chronic diseases, and so when family members get those diseases and they're women, they're being told that they did not pay the debt because their grandmothers underwent FGM. And so, in the Kikuyu family, you are named after your grandmother.
Yes.
So if you have your grandmother's name and if you did not undergo FGM, then you have not paid the debt. That's why you are facing all these illnesses. So that is what is being argued as the reason.
Why would a learned person take that argument?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It is not something that is substantive, and for looking at the context in Kenya, so the anti-FGM board is mandated to coordinate, all NFGM activities in Kenya, and we work in close collaboration with anti-FGM. But the anti-FGM board has done a very good job in bringing all actors together, and you can see the president of Kenya is one of the few world leaders who have declared to end FGM by 2022, and he has been very consistent in his commitment. And actually, looking also at the recent Gender Equality Forum, we had commitments that were made and resources set aside to end gender-based violence. In the Generation Equality Forum, Kenya and UK host the Action Coalition on GBV. So that means that our country and our leader and our, the minister in charge of, gender, we have very strong leadership. So
Ismail, for once there's political goodwill.
Yes.
But something is still lacking. So
maybe if I can talk about what FGM is.
Yes. First of all, let's now talk about what is FGM.
FGM is, the total or partial removal of female genitalia in whole or in part for non-medical reasons. So FGM has no known medical benefits, and FGM is a violation of human rights. And also I'd like to mention that for instance, my colleague mentioned about religion.
Yes.
First of all, our Chief Kadhi in Kenya has publicly declared, our Deputy Chief Kadhi, former Deputy Chief Kadhi, I think, declared publicly that FGM has no basis in Islam.
Or any religion.
Or any religion.
Yes.
So FGM has no basis in any religion. Despite religion,
and that's powerful.
Despite religion being a reason why most communities, especially in the north, continue to do FGM.
Yes.
So FGM also happens because of cultural reasons, especially in communities like the Samburu, the Maasai. The reason or the argument is this is our culture, and we found our fathers, our grandfathers, our ancestors doing it, and so we continue doing it. So that's another reason. And also there are other reasons, including, for instance, pressure. Some do it because of being pressured by their peers to do it.
Yes.
Some are doing it because of economic reasons. For instance, the cutters who cut girls, some
they
get
for the money.
good amount of money. So this is like business, and they need to keep it going. So that means that more girls are being cut. So there are many reasons why FGM is being done. But why is it done? So it is done to some communities is to fulfill cultural obligation. For other communities is to achieve chastity and purification and family honor, social acceptance. So all these are reasons why FGM still continue to happen. But let me answer your question on why, despite all the commitments,
the political goodwill.
We still have. Let me just say, like between now, today, and 2030, over 500,000 girls are at risk of FGM. Of course, this is according to UNFPA. So this means that the efforts to end FGM we need to still galvanize that momentum, and the challenges we are facing right now is secrecy. FGM is being done in secrecy. We have a prohibition of FGM Act, a law, the 2011 law,
2011.
which is really, as you said, it's one of like the model law on ending FGM globally. It's one of the most referred to laws when you're talking about FGM. But again, so communities now are doing this in secrecy. Then another trend that is coming up is girls are being cut at a younger age.
Yes.
So initially girls were being cut between 9, 10, 11. Now they're being cut as young as 5. And some communities like in the Taita, they're doing infant genital mutilation. They're cutting babies.
I was shocked. We had Sadia here on the show. No, Sadia?
Yes.
She's an anti-FGM crusader.
Activist,
And she told us about Taita, and I was like, no way.
Yes, it's happening.
Yeah. So there's that. There's that infant genital mutilation. Another thing is medicalization of FGMs.
What does that mean?
So this means that medical practitioners, these can be doctors, they can be nurses, people in the health profession, who are supposed to safeguard, the patients, or rather, the communities that they serve. They're the people who are cutting girls. So this can happen in facilities, in hospitals, and also this can happen at home, because they can bring the tools they need to do it.
Our own worst enemies when it comes to FGM.
We are our own worst enemies, because you're finding that and this is what he just said is true, because I know of medical officers in the rural areas who have clinics, but they will not do it in their clinics. What he just said, they'll be called home, because now parents are feeling like instead of me calling the traditional cutters are now being
phased out.
They're being phased out. So they're calling these doctors or these nurses to their homes, and they're actually performing the cut, and no one will even know about it. Only some. And even if low reporting is one of the issues, no one will report. And if something is not reported, it will not be known that it has happened. So you'll know this area is prevalent, but when it comes to cases in court or cases which have been reported to the police, there may be, let's say, even maybe 0.1% of the cases which are happening. So that is one of the issues. To top on what Mr. Ismail said earlier on the government trying to fight this through as the presidential declaration to end FGM by 2022. There's a multi-sectoral committee which was formed, which involves all the ministries in the government, and ODPP is actually part and parcel of it. And this team goes round and comes up with means of sensitizing the public. So you see, we are now moving. The ODPP is moving from just sitting and waiting to prosecute cases and trying to sensitize the public. So it's a major challenge because the community are not accepting this law. They are seeing it as a foreign law that has been brought to them. Yeah.
Is it foreign?
It's not foreign because it's time that we moved from these harmful traditional cultures which are not even beneficial to the girl or to the women. And let us not forget that when we talk about female genital mutilation, it does not involve the girls only. Even the women are involved, because you'll find that you will protect your girl from female genital mutilation, and I know that is one of their biggest challenges. You'll protect her, she'll turn 18, she'll go through the rite of passage as a girl who's not been cut, and then eventually gets married into a family that believes that women in that family must have undergone FGM. So she'll have to go, she'll take herself for female genital mutilation. So have you saved that person? No, you've not saved. You saved her as a girl, but when she transitioned into marriage, she ended up being cut. Or some, even the worst thing is that when they are giving birth to children, they actually, the female genital mutilation
they consent
is performed.
to it.
Some consent, some don't consent. But what is consent? Consent cannot be coerced. And that is one of the factors that was considered in the petition which was filed by Dr. Patatu.
Yes.
Because she was saying that why can't a woman, you have a right to undergo female genital mutilation, and it is a right under the Constitution. But the court said no, this consent is coerced. When you're told by your husband that you're not a woman enough and like other women, because you cannot, the man cannot maybe get some privileges in the community because he's being told he's married a child, or and you cannot participate. Let us not forget that we are still in the rural settings in this country. A woman cannot go fetch water with other women because she's being told you're a child. She cannot even be involved in chamas because you're a child. So eventually she says, for me to be accepted in this society, let me just go for, is that consent? No, it's not. It's coerced consent because it was not willing, freely, and it was not a choice that was given from her own volition.
Wow, I mean, I'm just shocked at how much we don't have. Yes,
maybe I can just add also on another emerging challenge is cross-border FGM. So currently, girls are being taken out of the country to the neighboring countries to be cut. So Kenya has border communities that share the same heritage. The Maasai in the Kenya-Tanzanian border. We have the Boranas and other Kushites in the the Kenya-Ethiopia border. Also the Kenya-Somali border, and also we have the Pokots in the Kenya-Uganda border. So a lot of FGM is happening, and I think a couple of years, I think 2 to 3 years ago, we had the interministerial declaration to end cross-border FGM. So that we had the ministers responsible for gender for the 5 countries: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Somalia, and Ethiopia. So met in Mombasa to pass that declaration, and under the East Africa. The East African Assembly, they also passed a bill, which we are waiting for it to be assented by the leaders. The leaders. That is I think the chairperson. I'm not sure if it's still Uhuru Kenyatta. So we're waiting for that to happen, so that at least we can harmonize how we're addressing FGM at the borders.
Then you have a lot of workers AMREF then.
Yeah, I think this is not only AMREF.
Community.
I think
even
everybody.
NGOs.
I think everybody plays a great role, a huge role in ending it, including the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, because looking at the point where FGM is committed or is done, so we have a perpetrator, we have a victim. So if it is reported, of course, it is reported to the police. So the challenge we are facing is that when we have weak investigations. Done, and I think maybe Mamasi can add on this. When we have weak investigation done at the police, maybe by their lack of understanding on how to address this issue or other issues, you find that by the time it goes to the prosecution, it's a weak case. It doesn't go any further. So all departments, the police, the investigative departments, and even when it reaches for judicial determination, even the judges, we are involving them. And actually, organizations like Equality Now, who work closely with the law enforcement agencies, they have training, they have capacity building trainings just to ensure that judges who are handling FGM cases have an understanding. Because we always assume that just by the fact that you're a judge, probably you have an understanding of everything. No. So these sensitization trainings help them to really understand the reasons why this happened, how to address such cases, and giving them the urgency and the importance that they deserve. One of the challenges we are facing also in the law system is there are girls who volunteer to be cut themselves, children who probably because of the pressure.
Peer pressure.
Because do you know the law says that even if you volunteer yourself to be cut, you will be
Charged.
it's against the law. You will be charged. So the question is, how do we reconcile the fact that is this girl at that point, is he a criminal or
Is she a victim?
Is she a victim? so those are the kind of challenges we are facing also with our system.
Wow, it's interesting you mentioned the judiciary. I think there was a case the other day about rape. I think a teacher raped a student, but the judge determining that, the magistrate I think determining that case said, because this child was born 11 months and not 9 months, you get like alizaliwa after 9 months gestation period, like 11, it's not possible that this guy raped the child. You saw that case?
Yes, I did. Quite a strange case. Yes,
Yeah,
the
very
DNA
strange.
said 99.9%. So why?
Yeah. Okay, so thanks so much. Let me just go into social because of time. The cop Vincent Lumumba says, I wish DPP Haji was live here. I share a problem that has never been solved since 2018. The cop, just inbox and you'll get someone to respond to you immediately, and you'll get help. You don't really need to have the DPP. There are many people, there are other experts who can also be able to assist you. Kara Chemutai, thank you for watching. Mwangi wa Muraya says, in cases of FGM, who is usually held liable when the victim is consenting? Exactly what you're saying. Who is held liable when the victim is consenting?
Yes. I answer?
Yes.
Yeah, if it is reported, the one who is held liable, number one is the person who actually performed the female genital mutilation, because that is the perpetrator. Other actors, why did you agree to participate in this process of female genital mutilation when you know it is against the law? The person who helped, aided or abetted this victim. And for correction, we don't charge children who have actually consented to female genital mutilation. We go to the perpetrators. The ones who we charge are adults.
Okay.
Because a child, we always say, cannot consent because she's underage. So even the ones who took her to this place, the one who facilitated the premises to be used for female genital mutilation, we charge them, and we have those cases in court where we've got conviction, and the conviction, by the way, is 3 years or a fine of 200,000 if you're found guilty. So we have the aiding and abetting the person who gave the premises. We have those cases. We have the ones who failed to report, who are being charged the same fine and penalty. Yes.
Okay. Christine Alphonse says, amazing conversation and very informative. Thanks, Christine. Mwangia Mura still says, this is such an informative conversation. Never knew child labor was this big of a problem, you and I never knew that. Sam Kereki says, very informative. Somebody has asked a question here. Let me just get to it. Carol asked, child labor is where a child is exploited. I think she's responding to someone. Eddie Kenyan says, Ismail Omar, good job. And Don Lamachiv, this looks like a Russian name. Can a defilement victim age 17 withdraw her case upon getting an ID?
No, you can't, because the defilement occurred when she was a child. So even if she turns into an adult, she was still violated when she was a child.
And maybe just to add also on that, we've not spoken about child marriage. So
no, we haven't actually. How prevalent is that?
So 23% of girls in Kenya who undergo child marriage before they celebrate their 18th birthday. So child marriage is basically that. The Marriage Act is very clear that marriage for children under the age of 18, that is considered as child marriage, and it's illegal. So there's something we don't always remember. If a child has been married who is underage, when this case is reported as child marriage, there should be we don't see it also as defilement. So there's a connection between defilement and child marriage. So if you have engaged in child marriage and you have consummated with a child, so those are two cases. It's defilement and it is child marriage. So we need to see that. We need to start seeing that, and also all these issues we're talking about, child marriage and especially FGM are forms of child abuse. Leave alone cutting the girl, touching the genitalia of children, be it a boy or a girl, for whatever reason, is child abuse. And that is the kind of framing we want to begin. Because at this point in time, we have to save the girls who are at risk. of, undergoing FGM, because we have always been hiding, behind culture.
Yes.
But we need to framing the way we are framing gender-based violence, because FGM is a form of gender.
Yes.
Is a form of.
I also wanted that clarity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So these are forms of child abuse, and it's actually sexual assault.
A lot of
this
wrongs.
Is sexual assault. So even as we are in this space, we are currently seeing how best do we reconcile between framing social change communication that is respectable to communities, so that they can agree to end FGM on their own volition, because of the understanding and the sensation they have got. But also, we wanted to protect the girls of today from being cut, and that's why we have to use the law, and we have to ensure that we reframe the kind of messaging we are sending to communities, that all these issues are forms of child abuse.
So many wrongs in one thing.
Yeah, on the same strength, let me come. You say these cases, as he has said. One of the things, before prosecutors charge a case, we have to look at the decision to charge guidelines, the evidentiary test and the threshold test. So you'll find this case which was reported as defilement because the girl was found with the man. But when you look at the facts of the case, and I know this is an example, actually I know one of the cases I dealt with where I was prosecuting previously. The case was reported as a defilement case, but when you look at the evidence, you find that depending on the traditions of a particular place, and which we have to be aware of, you'll find this girl, when the first day she was married off, she went to this boy's family, but did not sleep with the man. She slept at the mother-in-law's house. So when the case comes in, there is no evidence of defilement. So you can easily decide, because you have to look at the P3 form. There's no evidence of defilement. She slept at her grandmother's home and everything. So you can easily dismiss the case and say no evidence of defilement, close the file. But you look at other factors, because I remember that case when you looked at other factors. This was a child. She's been married off. She's been taken by the new husband. So what does that mean? There's early marriage, and we ended up not charging with defilement, but recommending charges for early marriage. We charged the father of the girl, and we charged the husband of the new husband of the girl, and they were actually convicted.
So it moved from defilement to something else.
Defilement to early marriage. So you have to be aware of all those factors when we are looking through a file.
All right. Let me see somebody else. Nanjala says, very informative discussion. Kudos to the panelists. So proud of you, Miss Nyaroita.
Thank you.
Let me see something else.
I think also wanted to pass my accolades to Nanjala. I think Nanjala, the former ODPP, I think she really steered the kind of support we are getting from the ODPP.
Good.
So we really congratulate Nanjala for her amazing work.
All right, thanks. So Luke asks, can a parent withdraw a case of assault on behalf of his child outside the court? And that's a question maybe to you. Do you deal with out-of-court settlements when it comes to children cases? It
depends with the type of case, So if it is a sexual or related offenses, there is no sexual related offenses cannot be diverted. But when it comes to children who are who find themselves within the criminal justice system, either children in conflict with the law, these are the ones who have performed a crime and have been charged. So those ones, the first option in any case where a child has been charged, divert those cases. That is an alternative way of dealing with this case. And the good thing about diverting a case is that first, this child will not have a record. Second, these are adolescents. So adolescents tend to try and break the boundaries or try to become difficult. So at the end of the day, you'll find that they have actually committed an offense. Unfortunately, because of the previous discussion where we were having about a society which has disintegrated, no one is there to actually say, let's sit down and find a solution to how we can reform this child. They just say, take him to court, take him to court. The chiefs are no longer able to handle children of people who are not their own children. So you find that they end up in the court system. So as prosecutors, we have the ability to divert these cases out of the system. That way they can either give an apology to the person who they have committed an offense to. They can through their parents, they can compensate that individual, or they can be taken to rehabilitation center. Not rehabilitation center, some centers where they can be reformed.
But also, maybe just to add that about the Masla courts or the kangaroo courts in the northeastern province, we find a lot of children who have faced violence, serious forms of violence, including probably even rape, defilement, FGM, and all these issues, you find that the cultural court system, this informal masla systems, they tend to use this to have out-of-court settlement. So if you're a family of the person who has maybe who is being charged with defilement, you just you give some few cows or some few goats here and there, and that
then you're free.
But again, so for us as AMREF, and of course all other organizations that are working on issues to do with children, we have zero tolerance when it comes to violence against children.
Oh, God, that's good to note. So we just want to wind up. I told you 1 hour really runs out fast. I feel like we haven't even started it. Yes. This is YouTube. Saling Joyce, she says she's tuned in and she's learning a lot. Thank you so much. Bicambo Advocate says quite inspiring and informative, especially with regards to the digital space, with issues affecting the girl child. Bicambo Advocate says Miss Nyaroita, I think because of the example you gave. And then David Ranira says, congratulations to Mercy Nyaroita, you're a celeb, for the excellent work she's doing in engaging with the affected communities on the ground directly. Very interesting.
Thank you.
And then Betty Kabiridu says, congratulations Mercy, keep it for creating awareness and protecting the child in our society. So you've been doing this for a long time?
Yes, I have been doing it for quite some time. You see, to be honest, when I went to my first station, which was in Narok, I did not know about female genital mutilation.
So you were shocked?
I found it there and I was shocked. And by the way, even the law enforcement officers are not even trained. Maybe right now, because I remember there's a session we went and we were trying to develop a curriculum for them, the ODPP centers, on SOPs. For sexual gender-based violence, and they really touched a part of it on female genital mutilation. And I asked them why you need to have a course purely for female genital mutilation, because you need to sensitize your officers on how to investigate, because they don't know, and they didn't even have sample charges of the framing of these offenses. So it's a gap, and when I went there was nothing. You just get a case, you learn through experience. So I've done it for quite some time. That is how I learned about FGM.
I also want to congratulate, some 2-3 years back, she won the Prosecutor of the Year award.
I won it once.
For her outstanding accomplishment in ending FGM.
That's really good. Yes. So you also have your own initiatives you do personally for this?
The voluntary, you have to get out, because you see when you go to a place and you find this is quite prevalent and it's a problem that is not being addressed, you cannot just sit and wait. So you engage with other CBOs, you engage with the NGOs in your local community. It's called mapping, stakeholders mapping. And you start for free. You don't even need to be paid. You go and you sensitize the public. I've gone to the deepest part of Narok just to talk about FGM, early marriage, the laws.
What's the youngest child you've seen being engaged in early marriage?
The youngest I saw, because in that particular case, she was 11 years old.
Taken in by a what?
29-year-old. Yes, he was 29.
I don't think I'll ever get to understand the depth of this thing.
It's mind-boggling. You just wonder, why is this happening? Why are these people not changing? So, and that is why you have to sense it. Prosecution is the last resort. And why prosecution is sad, sometimes it's sad, but I usually say once you have come to the court system, you will be prosecuted to the fullest. Why I usually say it's the last resort, it's because it breaks this family apart. You see, you have the girl who will come and testify against the father. Where will she go back home? Her family will say, you are the one who took your father to jail, and he's the breadwinner. So who do you want to educate you now that you're back at home? You'll have the mother, you'll have the aunt. It's like you're dealing with a family case in the prosecution of that case.
That's really difficult. So Shamir Abd, the name is quite difficult, Ulkayum, Shamir, let me just call you that. I think the one thing we need to counter is the Baraza la Wazee thing, where a child is defiled by an adult, when an adult sit and decide to resolve it out of court. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And there's zero tolerance to that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Zero tolerance, because it even affects negatively the prosecution. Once they do those maslahs, especially in those sexual related offenses, you'll never see these witnesses in court. They'll turn hostile, or the accused person will disappear. It negatively affects prosecution.
Wow. Wow, quite interesting. So we have done with our 1 hour surprise. And I think we've gone beyond this. And like I said at the beginning, you can't exhaust the conversation on child justice. It's quite wide. You see, we are almost forgetting about child marriages at that point. So this is YouTube again. Wamuyo Ngudari says, Sure Mercy Nyorita got an award. Congratulations for this far away.
Thank you.
This is where you start your ambition for. You say, what wamesema I ran for this post for women rep.
Serikali imesema. Watu wananchi ni wananchi wamesema.
You go run for women rep. This is Nicole Wanja says, oh, wonderful, big up, Mercy, job well done. Wamuyu Ngudari, informative, distinguish either defilement and early marriage. Good on zero tolerance. Thank you. I think he's learned about defilement and early marriages, the connection. And he says, thank you. And then Betty Kaberudo says, congratulations, Mercy, keep it for creating awareness and protecting the child in our society. And then, of course, I think we've read the rest. So we have a celeb in our midst. Mwambia kukumbuki akipata ile akipata ile seat. Duncan Langat says, amazing show. He's following from Narok.
Yes.
And I think it's quite exciting to see even men, coming up and rising up against FGM.
Yes, people like Isma, they do a very good job. Yes. He's why have you not said even originally?
Oh
from
yeah,
Narok?
so I'm from Narok.
Oh, you're from Narok?
Yeah, so actually where we met, when I met her, I think we were working both in Narok, and so I think that's where we started this activism work. But again, the role of men and boys is very key, because most of these issues, you find that men are...
they do it for men sometimes?
Yeah. So you see that men are husbands, they are elders, they are brothers, they're mostly of these leaders.
Yeah.
And they're mostly, I would say, mostly decision makers in most households. And so if they decide, for instance, to end FGM in their household or child marriage, then that will happen. Yeah. So the role of engaging men and boys is very key in the kind of work that we do.
Yeah. Are you seeing, the anti-FGM has a target of ending FGM by 2022?
Yeah, so
that is like next year.
So not only the anti-FGM, but that is the presidential declaration. The president wants FGM to end by 2022. So if the question is it going to end or not? So what I could say is that the most important thing is that there is intention. There is a deliberate, and of course it's very intentional that we do want to end FGM by 2022. So I guess we will see when we get to that point. We will see what is going to happen. But the president is committed, and the president has had a series of meetings with elders from. We had the Samburu Declaration in Samburu. We had Loita Declaration. Actually, the one in Samburu, the president himself attended. Oh, yes. And so they have leaders who have come to the State House, elders to talk about it. So we believe that with the commitment from the communities themselves, from the government, then we put there's a huge potential that we might be able to end FGM by 2022. And even if we do not, I think we still have the SDGs, which the goal is to end FGM by 2030. Okay. So we are still moving ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Quite interesting. I don't know about 2022. I am not quite optimistic about it. In as much as there's intention, maybe we'll still move it. But I think the greatest challenge you may have right now is the elite now, the learned, wanting to go back to culture and doing this. I mean, what do you tell them? Like, what don't they know about this? Even the impact of this.
So there are elite people who are right now. They are pro-FGM supporters. People who have we have even professors in universities who are supporting.
So what do you tell them?
So I think for me, we are moving with people who want to change, to build a critical mass of people who are saying no to FGM, no to all these issues, no to child marriage. Yeah. We are moving with communities that have discovered themselves that FGM is a violation of human rights, that girls need to stay in school, that girls need not to be brides, that no girl or woman should suffer or die because of FGMs. So communities, so initially, for instance, if it is for when we're looking at FGM, a girl was being cut so that the girl can be more valued. So there was an attachment with a girl being valued when she's cut. But now we are saying, even without the cut, we can still value that girl and give her opportunities, give her education. In fact, right now we had a conversation with the CEO of the Anti-FGM board. I think right now all girls should remain in school. girls should remain in school. Nothing else, nothing more. Girls should stay in school, they get a good education, and they get protected so that we can break the cycle of FGM. If today's girls who are in school, if today they are not cut,
then the cycle is broken.
The cycle is broken. They're less likely to cut their daughters when they become parents.
Yeah. And the cycle of poverty
is
broken, and the cycle of child labor. You're seeing how all these things are
they're also
related.
Yes. Just finally, as we wind up, somebody had posted on Facebook the other day saying that they had undergone FGM and they wanted to be, because they had issues, of course, the complications that come with it. So now she's grown and she's seen why she has complications. It's because of FGM. She wants to undergo reconstructive surgery.
Oh yes.
But NHIF said no to it.
But I remember going to a session and the ministry, I can't remember which ministry it is, but they are offering reconstructive surgery to women who've undergone female genital mutilation at the Nairobi hospital, reconstructive surgery.
For free?
Yes, that is what he told us. So I don't know whether it is still there, and it was a program that they ran. That was before the COVID-19 pandemic. They were doing it.
Maybe just to add on that, I know there is I don't think it's the government per se, but I know there's a doctor who is practicing and this doctor, I think Abdullahi, who is offering, it's called clitoroplasty. Is reconstruction of the clitoris, and so we do not have, I don't think we do have a position of the government about it, because if, for instance, Western women, Wazungu, if they do the genitalia modification for aesthetic purposes, do we consider that as FGM as well? So the definition of FGM, there are 4 types of FGM. There's type 1, which is just the cutting the tip of the clitoris, which is now being called sunnah by most Muslims. Then there is type 2, that when you cut the labia and the lips of the lips of the clitoris. Labia. And the third one is the one that is infibulation, the one that you cut everything and sew up. And the last one is all other non-classified types. So it can be pricking, it can be burning, it can be those ones that those ones for doing it for aesthetic purposes. It can be elongating. There are many other forms of FGM that happen not only in Kenya, even across the world. So for purposes of just for ethical purposes, women need to choose for themselves if they want the reconstruction. But again, there needs to be more research about it. I don't think we have conclusive research about the benefits of clitoroplasty. But let me leave this to the doctors and the experts.
Yes, you should call experts. They are the ones who know about that.
Exactly.
But that is because you see some communities are thinking when they moved from type 3 to type 1, they have improved. Just from the infibulation to just thinking, you've just done something small. It's not really FGM.
But I also want to bust a myth.
That's a challenge.
Just want to bust a myth that women who have been cut don't enjoy sex.
They do.
That is a myth. The women who have been cut. So when you cut the clitoris, so look like a strand, like a blood, I don't know what to call it. That
rubber band.
Rubber band, exactly. So when you cut a rubber band, it will still stretch.
Yes.
So that is how the clitoris is. So there are some women who I will say also it affects them in a way that it reduces the sexual pleasure. But again, I will say that there are some women who still enjoy sex even after they've been cut as well.
Because when you go for this training, you're told that the clitoris is quite large inside. It's a myth. It's a myth that you cut it, that's it. No, it's still a very big.
So you don't change anything by cutting it. I think Sadia, when she was here, she gave us the details. She was very clear that it really doesn't change much. Only that it's also the negatives are really, really, really bad.
Yes.
And we need to stop this. We have to come to an end of this discussion. I think we can go on and on for a long time. But I want to thank you so much for the insights. And I want to wish you well in your campaign against FGM. And I hope we win this, if not by 2022, but sometime soon. And of course, recruit more he for she's so that you get this going. And maybe, Mercy, just to encourage you to continue with your kazi kwa ground.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's really nice. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your comments on Facebook and on YouTube and of course on Twitter. It's been an interesting discussion. Like I said earlier, we really cannot exhaust discussing child justice. There's so much to talk about. Like you see, Omar just reminded us about child marriages. I didn't even know the prevalence of it in Kenya, but now I know, and now you know, and there's so much you can do as a community to protect the girl child, especially. Of course, not leaving behind the boy child, but because this was about the girl child, we really need to work together to protect the girl child. Because like Sadia said in the last show, girls are born perfect. Stop trying to change them. You're not God. FGM is not based on any religion. It's not good for anything, just culture, a social construct, and something we can change as a society. So let's leave girls as they are. Let's empower them to have their own voice, to explore and achieve their full potential as they ought to be on this God-given earth. So thank you so much. Keep engaging. We keep talking, and let's meet again next week on Friday for another discussion. We'll have to see what this is about on Monday. Again, if you want us to discuss something, just let us know in the comments, and we will. If you have something burning that you want the ODPP to address, just inbox. Somebody will get back to you. Or you can definitely just look at the website. There are those contacts like info@ODPP.ke for more direction about whatever issue you have. The ODPP is working towards a child-friendly society, working with partners such as AMREF, and it is our duty to join them and help them do this. Have a very lovely weekend and a nice week ahead. God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.